Hi guys, Kim here, Design Team Coordinator with Swirlydoos Kit Club. What I got for you today is a start to finish altered fan. This fan can be found in our March main kit. And what I've already done is I've taken it and I've glued it open, and I'm going to adhere this to a flat 12 by 12 canvas. As you can see here, I'm going to decorate the canvas last. We're just going to adhere the fan and go ahead and decorate it. And I'm going to be using some items from our mixed media kit as well. But what I'm going to do is start by adhering it with some Art Basics 3D gloss gel. I like to use that when I do my mixed media projects because it holds pretty well. So I'm going to put some of that generously on the back of this and adhere it to the canvas, and then I'm going to heat it to make sure that it dries pretty quick. And so I'm generously adhering that to the back of the canvas on those to the fan on those parts that are going to stick down to the canvas. And then I'm just going to arrange it the way that I like it on the canvas. And I'm just going to leave some room around the edges, but I want to make sure that this is stuck down firmly. So I'm just going to hold it down for a few seconds and probably just hit it maybe with the heat gun for a second or two to make sure that that's just stuck down. I just want to make sure that that's down before we go ahead and work with this. I don't want it moving around or anything. This is going to be my color palette. I'm going to be using some of the new Finnabar paints. That's the rose gold. That's going to be the metallic vintage rose, and that's the mist. That's the new art anthology Minx that we've got in our mixed media add-on, and I made a mist out of it. I made a really light mist out of it, so I used more water and less of the Minx to use the mist. That is the metallic rose that came also in our mixed media kit. So I used 4 paints to do this, all within the rose family color. And I'm also going to be using the mini art stones that came in our mixed media kit as well. I'll put a description or a list of my supplies down at the bottom in the description of the video. All right, now that that's stuck down, those are some of the items that I'm going to use to decorate my fan. And again, I'm going to use the 3D gloss gel to adhere this. These are just a bunch of paper flowers, some pieces of metal. I'm even using some relics and artifacts that we've got in a previous kit as well too. Just a whole bunch of bits and bobs that I had sitting around, some paper flowers. There's that relic and artifact there that I've got there. And I'm just going to arrange these randomly here on here. Another piece of that relics and artifacts. Some stuff's going to overlap. Just however you like it, the way that you like it to look, it's all going to go on here randomly. And it doesn't matter if things are of different colors, like if you've got some silver metals or some brass metals or some gold metals, because we're going to cover all this with gesso. I've even used some pieces of chipboard on here as well. And I'm also using some pearls. I've got some yellow pearls, some gold pearls. Again, it really does not matter. As you can see, the different colors. Once I have it all on here, it's all going to get covered in white gesso. But I'm just going to add this stuff until I'm happy with the way it looks. And then I'm going to heat it because I want to make sure that everything is dry before I start covering it in gesso, because I don't want anything to move around. So I'm going to use the heat gun on that just to make sure that everything is all secure. And now that I've got everything all secure, like I said, I'm going to go ahead and cover this with some white gesso. I'm going to do one layer first, and then I'm going to go back over it again with a second layer just to make sure that everything is nice and evenly covered. So it may take a minute or two, and you want to make sure that things are dry. Alright, so I've got that first layer of gesso on. As you can see, you can still see some of the brown from the fan. So again, I'm going to go in and do that second coat. Plus I'm going to make sure I get my metals covered really well. I'm going to go ahead and get the flowers covered. The only thing I'm not covering is my Prima light bulb there, because I want you to be able to see what it says on there. So that's the only thing that's not getting covered in the gesso. Everything else is getting all covered. And so now everything is nice and covered. But what I forgot is I want to include some of my earth stones. And I want them on the gesso before I start painting this. And I went ahead and heated the gesso. So now what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to go back in and put just a little bit of white gesso where I want to place the art stones randomly. So I'm just going to paint on some white gesso just a little bit, just so it's wet in some random spots. And then I'm just going to sprinkle on my art stones. The art stones are fun because it gives your project some more texture. I've got a lot going on with my flowers and metals, but the art stones just kind of give it another whole dimension as far as texture goes. So just put on some gesso, sprinkle some art stones on there. And the gesso will hold the art stones really well. I could have used the gloss gel as well too, but I figured I already had the gesso open, so I'm just going to go ahead and sprinkle the art stones on the gesso, and that will hold it really well. As you can see, as I tap it off, not too much fell off. And then just going to go ahead and heat it with the heat gun again, just to dry that, just to hold the art stones. All right, now my art stones are dry and they kind of blend into the gesso right now. You can see them there a little bit, but once I start painting this and adding some mist to it, those art stones are really going to stand out. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my paints together. And again, you'll be able to see my colors. And once you start to paint this, you want to start with your lightest color to your darkest color. And the thing about these paints is that they blend together really well. So if you've got something that's a little too dark or a little bit too light, you can always go back in with these paints and go over it again. So you won't have that problem. So I'm going to start with my lightest color. And I'm just going to start randomly painting wherever I want things, wherever I want it, just randomly, going over the fan and my flowers. Now, as you can see, that color is really light, but that's okay. I'm just going to layer the colors, and the layering your colors is what's going to give your project a lot more depth. So now I'm a couple of colors in here now. I've got the rose gold and the rose quartz, and these are the opal magic colors. As you can see here now, I've got a couple of colors in, and it's got a lot of shimmer to it. And I'm just going to keep going and layering these colors. And now this darker pink I've got in, that is the vintage rose. And again, that's in our mixed media kit. And again, it's a lot darker than the iridescent opal magic colors. But that's okay, because if it gets too dark, I can just go back over with some of the other colors to lighten that effect. Now, as you can see, I've got almost everything painted, and I've just got to go back over again with over my flowers again. And I'm again just mixing the colors and just trying to get it to where I like the blend of colors. And I'm heating it just so things will dry a little bit faster, just for the video's sake. Now what I'm going in is with that mist that I made. You see, it's going to give it a richer color because that mist has got more pigment than the paints. And if it gets too dark, just go back over it again with your paint, or take a little watered down gesso and go back over it. I like the color, the richness, the depth that the mist has given my embellishments. So I'm going to go ahead and dry that.